Zone 3 Podcast, I am Robert.
Yes, and I am Canadian Reggie. Hey.
Well, he's got the Canadian hat on. Well, first of all, be clear. Explain to them why you're calling yourself that now. All of a
I'm
sudden.
Canadian Reggie because I was in the 6 last week. For all you kiddos out there that don't know what the 6
I
is.
think that's like Drizzy or something, as the kids say.
Yes.
We were in the 6. This is true, a.k.a. Toronto, Ontario, for ISMRM, ISMRT. I have a hard time saying what that's. Say that 3 times fast.
ISMRM and ISMRT.
ISMRM, ISMRT.
So similar to our London trip, we were in Toronto visiting one of the biggest, if not the biggest, MRI conference itself, international MRI conference. So it's a little mix of technologists or radiographers, research MDs, and radiologists and physicists. So get a little bit of everybody at this conference. So
Actually, we knew a couple of physicists there from the facility that we work at here in Arizona.
Yeah.
Surprisingly, well, first of all, we had a connecting flight there. And we had a layover in Calgary. It was a short layover, so I'm not complaining. But it was 7 hours of flying, whereas on our way back, it was a direct flight. It was only about 4 hours.
right.
But we arrived Saturday night. The conference was, I think, the 3rd through the 8th, if I have that correct.
Yes.
And we arrived on the 3rd around 8 p.m. local time. We were staying at a downtown Airbnb because the hotels there are crazy expensive.
Oh my gosh, it was like $600 a night, and I wasn't sure if it was because of the convention or if it's just baseline for Toronto.
Yeah, where we stayed was a condo that accommodated all 3 of us, and actually Katie brought her husband Jay. Jay's was a big help. I don't know if I'm allowed to say his name.
Ex-professional hockey player, by the way.
Yeah, but it was a big enough place that was able to accommodate us all. Katie, you got there before us and had a stock kitchen and everything. Katie's awesome. What'd you think of the city? What was your first
we love the
impression?
city. I actually thought it was beautiful. It seemed pretty clean overall for being such a big city.
Right.
People seem very courteous to one another. Walking down the sidewalk, people would say hi to each other, which you don't always see in a larger city. But I thought it was very nice there.
Yeah, I was surprised by like how many of these like beautiful condo like skyscrapers there were.
Yeah.
A lot of
All
places to
glass.
stay there. All glass. Yep.
I mean, we saw windows being cleaned the whole time we were there because it was just nothing but
Some job
glass.
security there for sure.
Right.
But it was beautiful weather. Beautiful weather. So I think maybe that's why everybody was just in high spirits. But because it was beautiful weather, we did a lot of walking around town. We got to check out King Street. There's good nightlife there. We also went from restaurant to restaurant. There was some really, really good food. Everybody said try the poutine. We tried the poutine. What do you think of the poutine?
Man, I was super suspect at first. And for those who don't know what poutine is,
Put up a picture right now.
it's legit fries, gravy, and cheese curds.
Well, and
Right?
yeah,
Did I miss something?
those 3 ingredients is you can't go wrong for the most part. But I guess what's off-putting to me is the word curd.
Yeah, and gravy on fries.
But I didn't grow up in the Midwest, and so I guess that's a pretty common thing. But it was actually really good. I ended up actually asking for extra cheese curds towards the end there. But
Oh, yeah. It was, and I have a very small box when it comes to what I eat. So,
this is true. It's chicken nuggets and Chick-fil-A.
I mean, every once in a while I get like a DiGiorno or Papa John's
Some
pizza.
pizza.
So,
That's
but
true.
mostly Chick-fil-A in my diet.
Katie, where was your favorite poutine?
We ate at a little restaurant that was actually inside a hotel, I believe. I can't remember the name of it right offhand.
Lux. No.
I remember the name. Do you want me to give you a
Yeah,
chance
go ahead.
to remember? It was Azure Bar.
Azure, yes.
And I'm probably pronouncing that wrong. Azure
It
Bar. It was near the conference.
Excellent.
It was by far the
excellent
best food I had there. And actually,
was
there was
awesome.
really good food we had for like breakfast and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
Like it seemed like really fresh ingredients and stuff like that. And like you said, like the service there was really, really good.
For
I
sure.
agree.
So also one of the things that we were doing while we were around town is every time we go and we visit these cities, we like to do what's called Streakwints, and we'll probably put a link. Look for that in the next week or two. But it's a fun segment that we do where we just kind of, wherever city we are in, we go and we ask just common day people on the street, like their experiences with MRI. Have you had an MRI? What does MRI stand for? You may have seen these segments that we do. We had a pretty good turnout. There were some fun characters for sure.
You did about 8 interviews, and how many people actually had an MRI?
That's the crazy thing. We did, I want to say, not to correct you, but I think we did 7 interviews.
All right, my bad.
But Yeah, and of those 7, only 1 had an MRI. Now, if you were to go and ask anybody on the street here in Arizona, or for example, we've done it in Chicago, if you were to ask 7 people, I would say at least 5 of them have had an MRI before.
Right.
But I think that was kind of indicative to what you hear about Canadian healthcare, and I'm not bashing it or anything, but what you hear is that there's a long waiting period to have an MRI, like months.
Right.
So it's not as easily available to people as it is here.
Right.
So
Well, and I think that's one of the bigger talks, especially during the opening ceremony of ISMRM, is just access to MRI technology. You know, and they really want to push to have it more globally accessible to all countries, honestly. So really, you ideally think that because we're in the U.S. and when we probably do MRIs every time someone goes to the hospital has a headache. It seems like that when you're a technologist, at least.
True.
It's not like that all across the world. So, but we actually got to see a lot of cool things at ISMRM, ISMRT, however we want to discuss it this time. But
well, I did want to just point out the locations that we went to because we always try to do something iconic to the city.
right.
So where we went was the Nathan Phillips Square, where so we recorded right there with the Toronto sign in the background, and then we also went to Lake Ontario, Harbor Square Park. A lot of characters there.
We had a chance to go to Niagara Falls, but Robert got outvoted.
That's a sore
It's
subject.
a sore subject for him, but we decided to go to Toys R Us instead.
Yeah, and you think he's kidding. Yeah, he's dead serious. We went to Toys R Us instead.
Hey.
But hey, they had a Lego of a waterfall. So there
So
you go.
everybody wins in this scenario.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, that really happened.
There's no more. I just want to be clear about this. There's no more Toys R Us in the U.S. that I'm aware of. They have all gone out of business. So as soon as I saw that Toys R Us, we had to pull over.
Reggie's still a kid at heart.
I'm not a kid. I'm a grown ass man. Excuse my language. But Toys R Us. That's.
Maybe just a really immature grown-ass man. Excuse my
I mean,
language.
that's fair. But it's Toys R Us.
Yeah, the man wanted to go to Toys R Us. Moving on. We did want to record a Street Quits episode with the Toronto
With the
CNN
kids.
tower in the background. And we just found that the shot wasn't going to be very good. You wouldn't really see it. But,
Yeah, it was a tough shot for sure.
But let's talk about the whole reason why we went there. It was for ISMRM,
Yeah.
ISMRT. I guess I don't understand exactly where one starts and the other one begins, or stops and the other one begins.
Yeah, so I mean the conference, and we kind of talked about this when we went to London, but the conference is kind of a dual conference where you have your ISMRM, which is more catered towards research, the education as well, but it's for the PhDs, MDs, radiologists, and then you have your technologist aspect, which is the ISMRT, which that one is mostly clinical education. Some research, and then some, you get your abstracts and your talks from that as well. But those two conferences come together in one place. These two societies come together in one place because they're really just one society under ISMRM, but it just has a little branch for technologists as well. But we get there, right? Opening ceremony. So we get there Sunday roughly. And during opening ceremony, which was nice, we kind of they get right into it and pretty much talk about just how impactful this conference or the society has been when it comes to moving MR forward. And I want to say her name was I wrote down a note, so don't worry. Professor Tiffany Adolfo. Tiffany Adolfo kind of opens up with just pretty much talks about PRADs and how ISMRM was one of the biggest reasons, if not the only reason why we have PRADs for prostates. As you know, prostate cancer is one of the most overdiagnosed cancers, and it's becoming one of the most utilized, MR is becoming one of the most utilized modalities for identifying these lesions. So...
But to be fair, I guess it's the most commonest.
Just common.
Thank you. Second common cancer that there is.
Yeah. But 80% of people who get prostate cancer do not die from it, pretty much is what she's saying. But how do you know? Like, that makes the job hard, right? So she talks about the different methods that they go about, whether it's biopsy, radiation therapy, and resection and things like that. And just talk about how they try to navigate those waters, because it's not easy. And it was a really big opening. There's a lot of people. Soon as we break out from that conversation, everybody rushes into the, not a planetarium, but this other room where all the vendors are. And they have all these meals set up, and it's just like ants. Everybody's like crowded trying to get in there to get their, their one drink for their ticket and their meatballs.
Oh, I thought they were there to see us. No.
Yeah, that too, a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
It's true. They had different little booths for food, and there was a long line at each one. But okay, I know that we didn't get a chance to see everything that we wanted to, because we were actually only there until we left Wednesday. So we were there mostly all Monday and Tuesday.
Monday and Tuesday, we spent most of our time at the conference. And I guess this is a good time. We can kind of talk about some of our favorite sessions that we were able to see, talk about our favorite posters and things like that. What was your favorite session?
I got to see a cardiac presentation that I thought was pretty cool. And I even liked the name of it. It was Chest Pain Chess Game. And the part that I particularly enjoyed is when they got on the subject of like myocarditis and pericarditis. Nice. And they talked about different things, obviously, but like valve abnormalities. They had like different case studies.
Right.
I thought it was pretty cool.
Is your perspective on these conversations a little bit better now that you've had so much experience in cardiac?
Absolutely.
Right.
And it's funny because we do protocols specifically cater to these, diagnosis. And so it's interesting to see the different sequences that we run and the purpose of it and what it specifically you're looking for when you run these sequences. Like if you're running a short axis cine, where you can see possibly like an infarct.
Nice. Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. Because, like a lot of times when you're still in school, you hear about these concepts, but you haven't yet seen them.
Right.
So to see these things and then go to a presentation where they talk about these things, I thought it was pretty interesting.
Right. It is kind of eye-opening. How about you, Katie? Did you have a favorite? You liked them all, didn't you? You're kind
of...
of...
course. Yeah, I guess I like the safety-centered type of talks and things like that. There was really only one that was centered around safety. So, of course, that would have to be my favorite one out of the whole pack. I would like to see that in the future, having them bring up some more MRI safety type stuff. It's very important. It's high level. Everybody needs to know about it. So
we might have to talk Katie into giving a safety talk, y'all, at the next one.
That's very likely to happen. And for those of you who aren't aware, and we've said it before, but Katie's our MRSO, and so she's our go-to when we have questions about safety, and so she's very knowledgeable.
Super knowledgeable.
Thanks, Robert.
And I'm not just saying that. I mean it. You're very knowledgeable. But all right. So there was digital posters, and man, there were so many that I don't know if we got a chance to walk around and see all of them.
Yeah, I mean, they had great posters on just about every topic, low field, high field. We wanted to hit most of the technology stuff just to kind of keep everybody abreast on. Oh, actually, there was a talk called Keeping You Abreast, and it was talking about breast MR and just kind of how that's evolved. There's a bunch of different speakers on that. That was a good talk.
Well, and that kind of like leads to probably the biggest takeaway of the whole conference, which was like AI and what that's meant for imaging as a whole, but specifically MRI.
For sure. So as everyone knows from ChatGPT and Bard or whoever you're playing with these days on the internet for your emails and sentence writing, actually it's the implications for AI is just well beyond that at this point. But if you're keeping up with any of the technology surrounded by artificial intelligence, you've known that AI has been coming strong for a long time. I mean, RSNA, that was one of their biggest topics was, AI. And that carries on, especially with the research that is presented at ISMRM. AI is playing a huge role in reconstruction, but even beyond that, when it comes to diagnosis and planning. So it is going to literally touch every aspect of what we do as radiographers and technologists one day. So just be prepared for that. And I recommend everyone playing with ChatGPT because if you haven't played with that yet, it's going to be hard for you to understand how it's going to impact your lives moving forward. And it's definitely going to impact everybody.
It makes writing college papers a lot easier now.
Oh, yeah. And it makes grading them a lot easier, too.
Well, before we wrap up, we do want to thank a couple of people. Philip, with Philips, it was Jeff Haas, who we interviewed on remote scanning.
And I could talk about that interview real quick. So, and it'll pop up here in a second, but it's just a remote scanning. So Philips has a vendor-agnostic remote scanning technology. And we did a brief interview with Jeff Haas about that. So check that out real quick. Podcast. I am super excited to be talking about one of the biggest hot topics in the field and industry right now, which is remote scanning. And we actually have Philips coming to talk about their technology, which is really going to be groundbreaking, actually. I got Jeff Haas here, and Jeff is the regional manager, right?
Yep.
For this product. So, yeah, tell us a little bit about the Rock.
Yeah, sure. No, so I'm Jeff Haas. I'm based in Kansas City, so I cover the Midwest. I have 3 counterparts that we're now covering the entire nation for the ROC. So it's the Radiology Operations Command Center, which we were just talking a little bit about. That
Right.
I really wish they'd change the name because a lot of people think of it as a space shuttle command center, but that's definitely not what it is. It's more of a technologist assist that helps the industry right now with the staffing crisis around technologists.
Right. It is out of this world, though, this technology, right? So
Yeah, it's cutting edge.
It's pretty cutting edge. It gets me really pumped up for a couple of major reasons that we can discuss. But one for sure is that it doesn't have to be a Philips scanner, right? That just has this technology.
Correct. So one of the terms that has been used widely is vendor-agnostic. Some people get lost in what vendor-agnostic is or even vendor-neutral.
Right.
But what this is designed to do is to work on any MR or CT scanner that's been made within approximately the last 20 years. So Hitachi, GE, Philips, Canon, I think there's a few other manufacturers out there. Goes way back. I always joke around that it needs to not have a floppy disk for some of us that have been around for a while.
Good one. Right.
It's just a joke, but we do test to make sure that the scanner will connect, but yes.
Wow, and this is all kind of in a cloud environment, right?
Yeah, so it was designed around a cloud environment, so for the future and moving forward, but that also allows for a couple of different configurations. So we set up a command center, and I talk about a command center again.
Right.
It's not got to be a dedicated room, and it can actually be next to an MR. But at the same time, you may have a dedicated workroom. But then the biggest key for it to be cloud-based is that you can actually access the platform from wherever you are.
Oh, nice.
You could be at home. You could be a technologist on call that gets home on a Friday night, takes your scrubs off, gets comfortable, and you got to get called back in. I was just at an account last week that was in Chicago, and that's one of the biggest problems is they've got to get back on the road, back down to the hospital for a 5-minute assist.
Right.
And that's what this program is designed for, is assist. We also have another customer that's been traveling, and he takes his laptop to any hotel, and he's able to assist wherever he is.
Wow. Well, and I know there's 2 interfaces really, right? So there's the scanner interface that we're remoting into, but there's also a command interface.
Yeah, so the whole platform was designed to assist. So there is the command center.
Right.
So that would have a couple of monitors, and that can be set up inside of a hospital or even at home. And then you can also access it from any laptop. You have to be behind the security for the hospital system. But again, at the end of the day, it's designed to assist the technologist, not really take over their scanner.
For sure. Well, and there's a huge need, right, with the technology shortage and just the expertise that is out there in the field is growing, right? There's so much more that you need to know with how technology is advancing. And, there's a small amount of people who sometimes have that information. So it is nice to be able to reach those people, like you said, without them having to come all the way back to the, work after their leave and things like that. And is ROC available now?
Yeah, so it's available now. It's been launched in North America, actually the United States, to be specific, because we're here in Canada right now.
Right, that's right.
There's a high need for it in Canada, but also in Europe.
Awesome. And did you want to kind of go over some of the use cases, some scenarios that you guys kind of see this working for?
Yeah, so the use cases have been key, and I'll back up a little bit because around 2017, 2018, this kind of technology did come out, and it was called the Command Center. And the whole industry felt like, especially technologists, that it was designed to take over my scanner.
Right.
And maybe that was the plan back then, but moving forward with the staff shortage, the biggest emphasis is, this is like how we've adopted and started using Zoom and Teams to collaborate. Like we've even shared some meetings. it's there to help at the end of the day. Can a super user take over the scanner? Absolutely.
Right.
But that's not the goal. At the end of the day, we have the staffing shortage, and the goal is some of the use cases that are tied to it are, we have staff that calls in and we have to cancel for the day.
Right.
We don't have enough technologists to go around.
Right.
We're struggling with offering advanced procedures.
Right.
So this technology is really enabling help to the technologist in an industry that we've heard is staffed at about 75% right now. But other use cases that we're seeing now as the platform is growing is the ability to train remote.
Oh, nice.
So, there's a big staffing crisis right now, so we're low, but what do you do when those people start coming back?
Right.
Is how do you train them? And you can retrain them in a remote environment. You can train them on other platforms. So if they're familiar with the Siemens and they're on a GE scanner, you can help walk them through in that scenario as well. So,
wow. I know one of the scenarios that gets me the most pumped up, we work at a facility where we have maybe 4 different vendors and at multiple different locations, right? Mm-hmm. So I love the fact that I can maybe work on a protocol at one location and be able to distribute it, and at all these different locations without having to go from one place to the next, one place to the next, one place to the next with my USB stick or whatever it may be, right?
Right.
Trying to update those protocols. So that definitely gets me pumped up because it's really hard to keep things consistent when you have such a large bandwidth.
Exactly. And so the protocol standardization has been key. So that's where I usually recommend meeting with people just to give them a 30-minute flyover of the platform, because as I understand, and maybe you can correct me if I'm wrong, but to update protocols throughout your network, you take a thumb drive,
right,
and you drive to the other location, plug it in, update it, and then you drive. Well, you being the expert that you are, your time would be much better allocated seeing patients. So with the flip of a switch, you can update those protocols throughout your network.
That's nice, man. Jeff, that really gets me pumped up. I know it gets Robert pumped up too.
Right.
He's always juggling some cardiac protocols, trying to keep everything consistent where we work at. So.
Right, yeah.
But it's nice, and thank you for taking the time. Did we miss anything?
No, I don't think so. I think, I mentioned I'd love to offer to customers or people potentially looking at the platform.
Yeah.
Just reach out to me and I'll provide my email and phone number. And we just do a 30-minute overview, show you the platform, and it'll start to sink in on how it can help your organization become more efficient and make life on your technologists easier.
Wow. Zone 3 podcast. We love innovation. We know remote scanning is going to be huge, and we're just excited where the field is headed. So, Jeff, thank you for everything you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Can't wait to hear more about The Rock.
Sounds good. Thank you,
All
sir.
right, Zone 3 podcast, we are out.
And check this one out, too, as well. We did an interview with the CMO of Hyperfine, Dr. Siddiqui.
Yeah. Zone 3 podcast, I am Reggie, and we are super excited to have one of the most innovative companies, Hyperfine, here with Chief Medical Officer Khan Siddiqui here just to talk about some of the updates that they've had. We haven't talked to them in a couple of years, so I know they got some big things to talk to us about, right, Khan?
Yeah, thanks, Reggie.
Wow.
Thanks for inviting me here.
Of course.
Great. It's been a while since our last discussion with you guys.
Right.
Great.
Right. So what are you guys here kind of presenting at ISMRM?
Yeah, we are continuously showing the progress that the company's made, over the last couple of years. Rapid innovation, faster, better sequences, and newer capabilities. This year, there's been a lot of momentum with our partnership with Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation on the Unity project. So there are a lot of publications and presentations happening here. So we're supporting that effort. Around that, Unity project is also now included ISMRM. So they are the education partner for the Unity project. So it's great working with them around this capability.
Awesome.
And then Unity project also includes Caliber MR, Collective Minds Radiology, and a few other entities. So it's become a whole consortium of activity around ultra-low field, especially on the lower middle income country setting, so Sub-Saharan Africa, South Asia side of things.
So really broadening the access of MRI.
That's our mission.
Everybody who can, right?
That's exactly right. Our mission is to democratize healthcare and make advanced imaging available to everybody around the world. So we're fulfilling that mission.
Awesome. Now, I know when we last interviewed, I know you guys we were talking about the diffusion. Any updates with sequences or the AI technology that you guys are using?
Yeah, absolutely. So our U.S. commercial focus is critical care imaging, so neuroimaging, and for any critical care scenario. And for that, we really have been focused on how do we get imaging faster, right? So we've come up with the fast T2 scans and faster versions of other imaging modality. We've also improved significantly our diffusion-weighted imaging, about 42% increase in SNR around those diffusion images that are coming out in our releases right now. And then we're partnering with multiple different academic institutions to do different clinical trials for different specific scenarios.
Right.
There's all been publications around use of ECMO by Johns Hopkins as well as Bonn in Europe in patients who are very complicated, don't have any other option for imaging around that. A lot of other different partners are doing very interesting research on different clinical scenarios that is supporting it. So it's really exciting to see amount of effort happening here. I mean, the dedicated sessions here on ultra low field and portable point of care MR that didn't exist last year.
Right.
So that's just the amount of research and activity that you're seeing around that. So that's exactly what our focus is, trying to get, providing the diagnostic information at the patient's bedside.
For sure, and we're so happy to see the effort that you guys are putting in, because we have seen more. We come from the Valley, we're out in Phoenix, and we've seen more of these out there as well. So we can tell you guys have actually been putting some work in to get the technology where it needs to be, so that we can get those clinical diagnoses that we need, especially for things like stroke, like you're saying, critical instances like that. So no, thank you, Khan. This has been great. Am I missing out on anything else?
No, I think you covered it. I think at the end of the day, it's really important to look at from the patient's point of view and which patient is not getting the service that we need, right? So it ends up being the critical ill patient, and how do we provide that care right at the patient's bedside?
For sure.
So we partner with radiology, we partner with critical care teams to bring that. And if you think of it, just to talk about it, right? An ICU patient, when it needs to get imaging done, the first option is no imaging. Right? Patients too complicated, don't have nursing staff to move them around. Let's just don't do anything. And we'll press on the sternum to see if they twitch. If they twitch, then the brain is working. Like literally, that's how we do it clinically, right? But here now, taking it to the next level, how do we do that? The second option is that let's go on an expedition to take this patient down to the basement for an MR. So I need nursing, I need respiratory therapists, I need a portable ventilator, I need a dedicated bed that goes with transportation, I need a medical intern or resident or a staff to go with me. And then I have to sign off all my patients that I'm taking care of in the ICU because I'm going away as a nurse with this patient. So all of that stuff takes hours to make happen.
For sure.
Then those patients get to the MR, and then they have to now transfer from that bed to the MR compatible bed. All the IV lines have to switch to MR compatible IV lines.
We all know how heck that is.
Ventilators, you switch to a MR compatible ventilator. And it's 3 hours later you do the imaging.
Right.
With us now, this kind of stays in the ICU. They in the round order an MR. The tech is called, the drive-in to the patient bedside. Nobody leaves, nobody changes anything. None of the things are removed. Imaging done. Result image goes straight to the PACS, radiology reads it, and you have it. So it's what takes 11 and a half hours to 12 hours happens within 90 minutes.
And that's exactly what we need for those critical patients. You're right. You guys are really focusing on the right things, and we appreciate that.
Exactly. So that's been our mission and focus, and really providing that value care to, especially in the North American region we are in Canada and the US.
Nice. And is it still the Swoop?
So the Swoop.
Oh, awesome. Well, definitely check out the link. We're going to put a link to all the technology that they're working on, some blog posts and things that they just recently released. So look out for that. And Khan, Dr. Siddiqui, very nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you, Reggie.
And this is great. Keep pushing, because we definitely know low field is going big places.
What's cool about them is they're extending the reach. They're providing like imaging to areas that are otherwise just like not be available, impoverished countries.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I think that's kind of like basically just kind of the gist of our experience. It was a very cool experience. Toronto is an awesome city. You know, it's also an awesome city, Singapore.
Singapore 2024. If you haven't signed up yet and don't know how you're going to be able to even get out there, we're going to be doing a scholarship. No, I'm just joking. We ain't got it like that yet, y'all. But we do recommend submitting an abstract to these conferences, and whether it's a poster or whatever, it definitely may help, provide a pathway for you if your organization or the hospital that you work for is willing to kind of help support you in that aspect of education. And we know that our community are one of those, it's we're all MRI nerds. If you're watching this podcast right now, just consider yourself an MRI nerd. And if you're true to that, like we know you're true to that, then you want to help advance this type of stuff and just help move the education forward and help move the technology forward. So if you have something that you're knowledgeable about, man, definitely ISMRM, ISMRT is the platform to really be able to have these conversations with your peers. It's really nice. It was very refreshing being around all those intelligent people. And just like last year, sometimes I feel like I need more time there. We weren't there long enough for sure this year, and it's just tough, right? There's so many things that I wish I would have saw, so many talks that I wish we would have did that we weren't able to get to. So, but we would love to see you guys out there. So if you're going to be in Singapore next year, definitely find us because we're hoping to be there as well. We're still working out the logistics, but I'm submitting my abstract by November 4th. So make sure you do too. Mine might be about something corny like how Mortal Kombat relates to MRI.
Keep the cards close to your chest, bro.
Hey-yo! But yeah.
But speaking of people and seeing us in Singapore, we want to say thank you to all the people who did come say hi to us that we saw there in Toronto. There's a few people that I don't know. We like hearing that. We appreciate that.
Yeah.
Katie, are we missing anything?
I think we covered everything.
Yeah. So Reggie, this is when you say
Zone 3 podcast. We are
out.
And then you grab your papers and
dun, 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 dun,
you actually have papers.
Oh. Is it too late to do it now?